Well, welcome to this section, and thank you for coming. We're going to talk a little bit about digital audio basics while I demonstrate a piece of freeware. How many of you have worked with Audacity? Wow, that's quite a few of you. And maybe some of the things that I can say today might actually go home with you. I use this program as a quick and dirty, down-to editor. We have at our university, we've got some very sophisticated, high-end, high-definition digital audio recording gear called Pro Tools, and we're equipped in our recording studio with that. But there are many times when I'm at my desktop and I need to bring up a file, I need to edit something, I need to record a quick little voiceover, and this is a very, very helpful tool for me. It's also good for our students. We offer a course in music and audio methods for in-service teachers and teachers who are to be teaching. So it's a methods course, just like you take brass class. They take music tech class. And we go through a number of programs, and this is one of those that we use in our instruction. And I think many of our students find it to be very, very helpful. Here's the link. There are some of you who have laptops with you in the room, and that's the link to Audacity. This is a piece of freeware, and that is absolutely the best part. It's not only freeware, but it's open source, which means it's constantly undergoing new advancements by the users of it, who make suggestions to the programmers, and programmers who can get in and work with the source code. So some of the links down here are for source code, so that you can make a contribution to this software package yourself. So those are the links. It's a fairly simple thing. Oh, that might be a little bit. Let's see. There we go. Okay. These are some of the versions. Today I'm using version 1.25 because I have a Macintosh that has an Intel chip in it. For PPC users, for OS X, it's 1.26. And for older OS 9 Mac users, Audacity 1. So on that site are all of the links and links to some additional plugins and libraries. There is one particular plugin that I find very, very helpful, and that is LAME MP3 encoder. Audacity does not in itself output an MP3 file, so you need a plugin. It happens to be free, but you need to go get that plugin. So there is the link to that info. System requirements for Mac users, which is showing because I have this on a Mac, are relatively small. So this program runs with very little processing power. Some of the audio concepts that we're going to be talking about today are various audio formats. AIFF is a Macintosh-based format, audio interchange format. WAVE is a universal sound file related to Windows PC users, but it's very prevalent to find that in the professional world also. AU file is Sun Systems. We all know what MP3s are, compressed files, and then Ogg Vorbis, which is some of the open source thing. Some of the things that you need to look at when you are considering the format is sample rate and bit depth. And of course, dither. Sample rate is usually 16 bit or 24-bit with 44.1 kilohertz or 48 kilohertz or even 96 kilohertz. All this really is talking about is the resolution and speed at which this works. A CD that you go buy in a market is 16-bit 44.1 K sample rate. So all of those are available with this program. You can use all of the basic types of editing features just like you'd find in a word processor. So you can copy and cut and paste things. There's some built-in plugins for digital signal processing, compression, expansion, gating, gain, and normalization. I'll demonstrate a couple of those in just a moment. There's equalization, so we got some filtering that's a part of this program. There's reverb that you can add, digital delays, echoes, phasing choruses, and wah-wah. Tempo changes are possible. You can transpose the key, the bass of the key, and also you can transpose how fast or slow it goes, and you can do them independently. There's some noise processing, white noise, noise reduction, click removal. That's helpful sometimes if you've got a vinyl recording and you want to get it over into a CD and you wind up with a lot of hiss and pops, particularly if it has a scratch on the record. And it won't take it out totally, but there is some of that click removal processing. Panning, this is a multi-track program, up to 24 tracks in this particular version that I have. And you can pan your individual tracks, you can mute them solo, just like any other digital signal processing program. Let me exit out of here, and I'm going to launch Audacity. I love the little icon. It's a set of earphones with a lot of really loud stuff going on in between them. All right, so this is our basic interface. We have our little tool palette over here on the side. This is our selector tool. This is an envelope tool which you can use to make a complete sound file softer or louder. We've got a draw tool which works on a sample level. Let's say you've got a glitch or a pop. You can actually focus in, zoom into the basic sample level, take your pen and draw out individual pops and clicks. There's our little zoom tool. And then we've got our time shift tool. You can use this tool, you can grab an audio file that's in a track and slide it from one to another. And then there's a multi-tool mode. And on the back of your handout, I have included a little tutorial with the multi-tool tool. And I'm going to let you experiment with that on your own. Where's the first thing you want to do? We've got a file already open, and our audio files are going to go into this area. I'm going to grab this little bottom and bring it up. And so you've got your play controls. This is where you see your audio. This is the source audio. And we've got volume levels for both the microphone and for playback. Here's the default input source right now is going to be the microphone. And then these are some easy select tools that are the same type of processing that you would do from the main tool. Let's look in Audacity at the press. All right, I/O is, right now I'm using my built-in output. I've got a microphone, I have a built-in input as well, which I have nothing in there. If you've got a device, if you've got a sound card or some other type like a USB sound card, the program will recognize that and you're able to to record to that. There's our channels. I'm going to choose a mono channel today. Quality, I was mentioning earlier about the quality, the sample rate 44.1. Notice there's a wide variety of things that you can choose. 96 kilohertz is a very high quality file that you find in professional audio. 48 kilohertz is sort of standard these days for digital audio recording. Various kinds of digital samplers use 48 kilohertz. I'm going to select 48. As our sample rate format, I can do 32-bit. And then real-time rate converters and dither. Dither is the processing that the computer does when you are moving from one bit depth and sample rate to another one. And it's a special kind of processing which makes that happen. File formats, different qualities, spectrograms and the basics of that, directories where we save things to, how we approach our interfaces, and then the keyboard shortcuts. There are lots of little shortcuts that you can tailor for your own use, and the same thing for your mouse. What does your mouse do? Okay, so right now I'm going to use the built-in microphone. I'm on one channel, and so I'm going to go to New, and that's going to add my little file right there. See, the easiest thing might be to do is to record something. So, welcome to my presentation on Pro Tools, Audacity. My name is Bruce. And now we have our file. Let me play back, return key. Be to do is to record something. So, welcome to my presentation on Pro Tools, Audacity. My name is Bruce. Okay, so this is my quick little voiceover with problems. Okay, so I can see where this waveform is. Welcome. And there's my welcome. So I want to delete any of that, of the other part that I have in that. I can simply drag over that and then hit the delete key. So now, welcome to my presentation on Pro Tools. Well, my presentation is on Audacity and not Pro Tools. So let me find Audacity. Audacity. Oh, there we are. So I can select that area from the beginning of Pro Tools to Audacity, and I can snip that out. And welcome to my presentation on Audacity. My name is Bruce. Okay. All right, I've got a little extra space in there. Let me sort of pull that out. And Audacity. My name is Bruce. Okay, and I have a little point after that. So more or less that simple. Now I'm going to save my file. Audacity AUP files are specific files that only this program will open up. So if I want to save what I'm doing, I'll say okay, and then ask me where I want to go. And I'm going to go into my AUP file and call my document welcome. All right. So it says Audacity projects. So I can go into that. I can bring this exact file back up and what I have done with it, which might come in handy if I get into trouble. So Audacity. My name is Bruce. Okay. Now, how else can I save that out? So let's look at what we can do. We can export. I can export out as a WAV file. So there's my welcome WAV. And then I can take that file and I can open that file up in any other program. Like if I'm working in GarageBand and I'm doing a little project there, I can open that audio up in GarageBand or any other programs. The AUP files only open up in Audacity. What else can I save it out as? Well, I can save it out as an MP3. Anybody know what the ratio of data is between an AIF or a WAV file and an MP3 file? How much compression is there?
Quarter times.
It's 1/10. So if you've got a 10 megabyte WAV file, you can export that as an MP3 and it's a 1 megabyte file. So that's why. What happens? We lose audio whenever we compress. We lose some part of the audio. But most of the time for a lot of web-based things that we're doing, that's the file that we can use. Let's do a little overview of some of our windows. We just looked at open and close and save and export. There's our cut, copy, paste, all of our editing. We can zoom in and out easily. We can import and export audio, labels, MIDI, create new audio tracks, stereo tracks. It is possible to align a track. You've got multiple tracks. You want to sync them up together. You can put your cursor in and choose align. Very, very easy. We can generate things. We can generate a tone. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click right at the end of my file, somewhere over here, and I'm going to generate a tone. So it's going to ask me what tone do I want to generate, and I'm going to generate a 440. Okay, what might we use that for? And so there is 30 seconds of that. Okay, that's our AA440. What else can we generate? White noise. White noise is I'd say all audible frequencies at the same dynamic level, and it sounds like you're in the shower. This might be loud too. Well, not exactly what that's all about, but if we'll listen to that, oh yeah, beautiful, and that's very handy. I really use that a lot. Actually, what you can do with that is to filter it, and it's an excellent teaching tool to look at white noise and then filter it down into different bands. So under generate, I can generate a click track. All right, why don't we put my cursor right there, and let's generate a click. Okay, beats per minute, 120, number of measures, 32, four beats in a measure, and there we go, there's our little click track. And that might be helpful for you in the classroom to set up a track. Sometimes I'll do that when I am trying to synchronize various things. I'll build a little click track and then use it as a sync source. Okay, so that's some of the things that we can generate. How about some of the things that we can work with? Under effect, well, let's choose something. Let's choose Bruce. And let's look under our effect. The first one is amplify. I'm going to show you amplify on another little idea here in just a second. We can change pitch, and we can say from what to what. So I'm going to go to E and preview.
Bruce. Bruce.
Okay, let's go the other way. It's still doing that file.
Bruce.
All right, let's go back to C and see what happens. So,
My name is Bruce.
all right, now that I've got my little name in there, there's a few other things that I can do to it under effect. You can see some of these bass boost. We can add a few little echoes.
My name is Bruce.
It's undo that. Let's do some other things under effects. Fade out, noise reversal, normalize. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Reverse it.
My name is
Yeah.
My name is...
Okay, good. And this is a destructive audio program. You make a change, you save it, there's no going back. So it's always advised when you are working with this program to go ahead and save that program out and then work on a copy. So in case you do transpose your name up an octave, you can always get back to where you were. So this is part of the power of this program, is what you can do with the various kinds of plugins. They're actually programs, and you can bring in your own plugins as well. If you've got some VST or AU plugins, you can also use those as well. I want to do a little project with you. I'm going to select this little track, and close this out, and sure, I'll change. Okay, now we just recently had a choir program on campus, our concert choir, under the direction of our new director of choral activities, and that's Michael Lancaster. Michael, thank you for coming. And I'm going to bring in a file that we recorded, the concert choir. So it's going to take just a moment to load. And this is about a 30-minute file. And that's what it all looks like. You can sort of see the little valleys and the holes. But I want to point out something to you. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this. See some consistency in that? Check that out. Here's one. And then here's a big one. All right, what is it? It's applause. Let's just listen to this and see. And Mike, how's that feel, man? To hear that applause, you've got that applause all over again. So at this point, some of the things that I can do is to separate out each one of these pieces. The applause is the loudest thing that we have. So we're going to want to affect that applause. We're going to want to do something to it to reduce its level. We want to sort of bring it in keeping with the rest of the file. So if I were going to make a CD right now, I would go to each piece and I would select that piece and I would then save it out as a separate file. Now I'm going to do that with this one right here. And so I'm going to export selection as a wave. Right? And then I would do that with each one of the individual files within the group. So I'm going to export that out, and I'm going to call that spheres. Bless you. Okay. And I am going to go ahead and close this project out. Sure, I'll save changes. Now I'm saving this as an AUP file. I have already saved it out. I am bringing it in from another program. And there's spheres.wave, and I'm going to open that program up. Now that's a single file from his concert. Shall we listen to a little bit of it? Piece of music, gorgeous. That is the lowest volume level in our file right there, and it's pretty soft. I've got the level up here, let's go over to some climactic moment, and we can see right here, this is a very big climactic. The fullest moment of the piece. And now let's look over at our applause. Okay, our applause is blowing us away. So one of the first things that we want to do is to head trim and tail trim our file. Now, I already head trimmed it. I actually cut off a little bit of the beginning. But I'm going to go over here to the end, and I'm going to take that part, and this is at the end of the concert.
The next set of formal.
Okay, very nice. And I'm just going to delete that. And now I've got applause. Well, this is nice. They love the piece. It's too long, and it's too loud. So one of the first things I'm going to do is to make it softer all the way through. I'm going to see if I can bring the level of the applause down so that it's in a similar pattern to this level here. And I go to Effect, and I choose Amplify. Now, we normally think about amplification meaning to make it louder, but in this case, you have a median point of amplitude between 0 and 0. And if we go plus, we are making it louder by, in this case, 2.8 dB, decibels. And if we go the other way, we're minusing that level. So we want to take it down, and I'm going to guess about 8 to 10 dB. I'm going to err on the softer side, 10 dB. And there's this thing right here that says allow clipping. You ever want to do that? I don't think so. Clipping is when the volume, the digital volume, gets at its maximum, and it makes it sound very similar to white noise. Sounds like this. And we want to avoid clipping at all costs. So I'm not even sure why that's there, unless you want a special effect or something. Okay, I'm gonna, wow. Now that brought my applause down to management. So, and we can look up at the peak levels here in our level. Now notice we've got a little bit of stronger of a left channel. Why might that be? Yeah, who's on the left side? Those sopranos. Yeah, okay. So, and they're doing a beautiful job, but they're also up in the upper part of their register. So you want to be careful about moving things around too much, and those levels don't always have to be perfect, and a lot of times they shift around the other way. Okay, so let's listen to some of our applause. Okay, now this goes on for a while, okay, and that's nice. It helps your ego, you know, on a Saturday afternoon when you listen back to your concert, but it doesn't help out your CD very much. So what I'm going to do is to just grab the end of that, and I'm going to delete it, and then I'll let that applause come out, and then I'll go back to Effect, and I'm going to fade out. Okay, so now that makes our fade out a little bit.
There were two fade outs under that effect thing. Is there a difference between the top and the bottom one, or did I not read that right? The effect menu?
Let's see. Let's see what you saw. Fade in, fade out.
Yeah, and now you go up about halfway up, and there's
and
another
a fade
one.
in and a fade out.
Is there a difference?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to do one other thing. That last little bit of data is applause. I'm going to go in and I'm going to generate some white noise, not white noise. We don't want white noise. I want to generate some silence. And I'll say maybe two seconds of silence. And that gives a little bit of cushion at the end of that file. So when you're playing your CD, there's a little bit of extra time for you to aesthetically enjoy the moment, bang, before you hear the next piece. So I'm going to save my little project. This is about as far as you want to go. There are some valleys and peaks. And what might be good to help that out, the signal to noise ratio, is to bring down the peaks a little bit and bring the valleys up. Okay? I'm going to select all, and I'm going to go back to my little effect, and you will see something that says compressor. Okay. Now, think about that sound. We've got some high peaks and we've got low. And what we'd like to do is to bring this down and bring this up. Some people refer to that as squeezing. So you are expanding and you're limiting at the same time. So what does the limiter do? A limiter looks at the very top loudness and it says, okay, I'm going to bring that down. Leaves everything else alone, but it just limits the top. And they do that on radio all the time. They put a peak limiter on there, so no radio signal gets out that breaks regulations, government regulations. So the other thing is, let's say you like the peak, but you want this to be a little louder. So you can run it through an expander. So this expands the softer dynamics. And a compressor does both at the same time. It expands the soft and it brings the loud down. Now, there is a threshold. Right now, our threshold is set at minus 12 dB. Think about this. Here's the loudest part, and we want to bring something soft up. Well, 12 dB, anything that is more than 12 dB difference between the lowest and the highest point needs to be adjusted. So though it's pretty soft in the beginning, so I'm going to lower my threshold, and notice that as I do that, the top of that file is coming down also. And let's say I'm going to lower that threshold 30 dB. And that's a considerable amount. But I'm doing it right now for you just to illustrate. The ratio is 2 to 1. It's possible to have much higher ratios. The more ratio you have, what happens? It flattens the sound out. And we don't want to flatten the sound out. We just want to process it a little bit. And I'm really happy with that 2 dB. I'm 2.1. That's fine. And then attack times. Compressors release, and it takes them a moment for them to kick in. And it keeps you from having a very abrupt sound. So it releases, it comes in with a little bit of a fade in. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead and process this. Now, there is another box that I'm going to take off. Now, normalizing. Normalizing is a term that you find very frequently in working with digital audio. And when you're producing things for masters, and you're mastering a CD, it's a good idea to normalize. A normalization takes the loudest note, the loudest point, and makes it as loud as it possibly can be. And then everything else comes up with it. Are you with me on that? So, normalization of this file. What happens when you compress, we're bringing down the top, right? So, sometimes you need to normalize it to bring that top back up along with the other process. Let's process this. Takes a moment. And look at that file, okay? That's not normalized. Do you see exactly what all happened with that? Is our peaks came down and our other parts came back up. I'm going to undo that to show the contrast. Now I'm going to do that again. Select all and go into my effect. I'm going to compress and I'm going to normalize to 0 dB after compressing. And okay, now let's listen to the beginning of this one. Let's move over to the dramatic moments. And you would notice that when it reached the pinnacle, we were all the way up in our volume level. I generally do not normalize to 100%. It gives you no headroom at all. So I usually leave 2 or 3 dB headroom. I'm going to stop and I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to repeat this process again with just a compressor and not normalize. And now I'm going to go back to my effects and I'm going to choose normalize from my menu. Now I've got some options, right? Normalize maximum amplitude to minus 3 dB. And let's see. And this will make the file a little bit softer at the peak moments. And I would, at this point, go back through each of the clips that I have that are in my audio file. I would excerpt them out. I would make them into an individual file. I would head trim. I would tail trim. I would reduce the level of the applause. I would fade out of the applause. Then I would apply a little bit of compression to it. Perhaps not as dramatically as the compression here. And then I would take all of those individual files and then I would bring them into Toast or into iTunes or some other file and then insert CD and burn. And voila, a concert that has all of the elements fully represented. You acquire sounding at its best. Now, we've got a lot of editing tools here. We could go in and make several takes of a song, and we could bring all of those takes of a song into a program like like this, Audition, Audacity, Pro Tools, or other programs like this. And we could choose the best part of each take, and we could cut, copy, paste, and do intercuts. If you are thinking about doing this only for your parents and for your students to have the best recording that you have, that's fine. However, if you're planning to submit this to a festival or for a performance at a place like NCMEA, that's probably not the most ethical thing to do with the software. There are other things that you can do too. You cannot listen to a piece of pop music today and not hear auto-tuning. As a matter of fact, a lot of pop songs take auto-tuning so far that it purposefully flattens the note out to an exact pitch, and it's very, very possible to do that with the electronics that we have. So if you're doing a master recording for yourself, then those kinds of editing techniques are probably fine. But if you're trying to take your performance further, I recommend this is about as far as you go with the editing process. Questions about any of this?
Did you record that with your Zoom?
This was not recorded with a Zoom. This was recorded with some very sophisticated microphones that are suspended in a concert hall. And it was recorded on another program called Peak Audio, Peak Audio Pro.
Will Audacity, will it handle audio file or video files combined with the audio file? Like, can you separate the audio portion of a video file?
You can extract that with other programs such as QuickTime. This primarily, works with audio files. Any other questions? I think that most of the time we're budget conscious. Pro Tools is a wonderful program. There's a new version of Pro Tools that is out. Before, that application really requires some very heavy-duty hardware, and it's quite expensive. Now you can use Pro Tools natively on your computer without having to have sophisticated hardware. You do need, however, an iLock to hold the license. A little USB iLock costs about $40. Any other questions about Audacity or? Well, thank y'all so much for your time today.